Good afternoon, councillors, and welcome to our special meeting. We're opening at 3:30 p.m, and I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land on which we meet today, to thank them for their custodianship of this country and its waterways, and to pay respects to their elders past, present and emerging. In terms of attendance, we have all in attendance, noting that Councillor Bartley is joining us by Teams rather than in the room, and no apologies. Do we have any declarations of conflict of interest? No? Okay. Moving on to our item for today, we have a recommendation from staff that Council receive the report on the Sun-Dried Initiation NYE Festival and approve the application for a temporary entertainment event for the Sun-Dried Events Initiation New Year's Eve Festival under Council's Local Law No. 1 Administration 2011, subject to the conditions in Attachment 2. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Richters, thank you, and a seconder? Councillor Haslett. Okay, we are open for discussion, councillors.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to thank the applicants for taking on the initiative to contact local sporting agencies like the Warwick Horse Trials to allow them to come up with this alternate proposal. I think that many of the issues that we discussed last week have been addressed through this new proposal, and the new location, whilst providing, in my opinion, a much better suitable location, has fixed many of the issues regarding flooding and access via traffic issues. And I think that it's fantastic that this now is being moved away from what is effectively a private block of land and into a public space that's going to provide a benefit not only to the people who attend this festival, but also provide benefit back to local community groups and principally the horse trials. So I'm very excited that they have taken that move, and I'm fully supportive of their new application.
Thank you, Councillor Richters. Councillor Windle.
Thanks, Mayor Melissa. I just have one question. I've been through this and had a look closely at all the diagrams that have been outlined there that to show that everything's been attended to that we have been concerned about. My only concern is, well, it's not really a concern. I know now that if they're going to go out there, there is a dump point out there for the people who have caravans who are fully self-contained, or those people who might be camping and using little portaloos with their tents or whatever. I just want to be sure that the organisers are advising all those in attendance where the facility is, where the dump point is for their use, because we don't want them using the toilets or the portaloos to do that. We need them to be using that dump point that's allocated out there. So the organisers need to make the campers aware of that facility.
Through you, Mayor Melissa, that can definitely be added as a condition, but generally the organisers would have an information package for anyone attending, both on their website and when tickets are sold.
Yes, that's what I'm hoping that they will.
Request that they add that onto there.
Thank you.
Yes, Councillor Watley.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I'd just like to congratulate the staff for finding somewhere else a venue to hold this event. I still just to be noted, I have some concerns still on the 11. It going from 11 a.m. one day till 11 a.m. the next, and yeah, it's just a concern one going forward. And the other one is there'll be no council staff for any large complaints. I'm sure we'd have something in place, wouldn't we?
Councillor Wantling, I had a similar issue on the lack of council staff during that period, and I'd like to suggest actually that in condition 29 we actually require the applicant to pay for an independent authorised officer that people can make complaints to, so that I anticipate that if they are required to pay for an authorised council officer, we can arrange for a staff member to be on call with overtime pay, etc. So I actually do think we need to address the lack of staffing, because if there's no one to complain to other than the organiser, it takes away their independence in a way. They can just ignore people because they know that there's no one around from the council. So,
and could I just have one more? You've probably done this also. Have all Morgan Park Users Group been notified of this? this event's going on?
Okay, so there's a few different questions there through you, Melissa, I might address. So can I go back to the noise firstly? So the applicant has said that whilst they are going to go all night, that they will comply with the environmental protection legislation, which does say no audible noise after midnight to 7 a.m. So that's something just to factor in. And obviously we've asked for a noise management plan because of the quick turnaround with the application and the report. We weren't able to do a detailed noise assessment prior to developing this report, but we have asked for a noise management plan which will go through exactly what they're planning to do in terms of their noise and having controls in place. In terms of having a staff member, I probably, before conditioning, I just need to actually check I've got some staff available who will be in the region at that time of year, so that's probably something I just need to check before.
Yeah, well, that's what I was thinking about, an authorised officer, that if staff aren't available, we have the funding to get someone independent to take on that role. So it might be staff or it might be someone we appoint to be our agent in that circumstance.
I mean, I'd just like to draw your attention to what has happened for other events. We haven't required other events to have an independent contact point. And particularly the other event that I'm talking about, which was only 12 months ago, did manage that themselves, and that was part of the conditions of their approval.
Councillor Richters, at that point, they operated theirs at a time when we had staff. The point here is we are in Christmas, New Year close down, so that, and staff did receive calls in that previous one, so it just goes to show you do need someone on the end of the line. The issue is if it's our close down period, it really, if the applicant is making this application, I don't think council and ratepayers should be at cost for covering that part of the arrangement.
Through you, Mayor Melissa, I guess just if we do have someone being paid, they will need to be authorised under the environmental protection legislation, so that's just something we now need to work through a little bit more.
Yeah, I'm thinking, it might be that someone in one of our neighbouring councils might be available for that role. We can just check it out. I do think there needs to be someone that people can call. I don't think it's okay that you're only able to call the event organiser. But that may not be the view around the room. We can check that.
Melissa, can I just check with Nicole? And I know we were approving this by council resolution, but we also I have delegation to approve this as an event.
Yes.
So rather than try and word that appropriately, could we include that as an extra condition once we check those things out under delegation, if it gets approved today?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
So I'll just.
Yeah, sorry, back to your other question I didn't answer. Councillor Watling, in terms of the user groups at Morgan Park, whether they've been notified, and I don't know the answer to that, but we would definitely require that the event operator would do that kind of notification.
I have a few additional ones too, Nicole. And taking the CEO's comments on board, I think some of these can be dealt with after we vote today. But in item 3, with the total number of people being not to exceed 850, can we include in there a requirement to report ticket sales to council so we can see how the ticket sales are going? I think that would also be useful for our economic development team. If they sell out very quickly, it's an indication to us of the appetite for the festival, and having those numbers, I think, not only shows compliance but gives us information for when we're looking at future events. So I think that would be very useful. Please, I know I'm going to get some looks around the room here, but we've all been to festivals. Item 26, the facilities, and in particular the toilets. The numbers that are given there are the minimum numbers for one-day events. I know there are no specific minimums for multi-day events, but the generally held view of organisers is that you need more for a multi-day event than you need for a single-day event. I'm not going to require us to change it here today, but I would like staff to consider whether those levels are appropriate, and whether maybe that needs to be increased slightly. And my last comment is in relation to emergency management, item 36. I think one of the big lessons that we learned with the Rabbits Eat Lettuce Festival was that, and this is not necessarily a council issue, but particularly the emergency services had not consulted with the local RFS and SES. And so I think I would actually like to see a specific requirement in there to deal with those groups, because they're the ones on the ground who have the knowledge and who will be responding in a situation. So I'd like to see 36 expanded to include RFS and SES.
Sure. Through you, Ms. Led, definitely take that on board. And in regards to the amenities, we actually use a guideline that's for event management that does cover different timeframes, so and whether alcohol is provided or not. So Rob can check that, confirm that's correct.
That'd be great, thank you.
It should just be noted that the applicant will be servicing and emptying those daily, so it'd be like they'll be there on a daily basis.
It's not the
anyway.
servicing, it's the queues, councillor Rictus, and I think every woman around this table will concur that the queues at event toilets can lead you to miss entire acts while you wait in a queue. So that's all I'm going to say. I knew there'd be laughter.
wondering how you're gonna
Glad to
finish
give
that
everyone entertainment here today, but I'd just like to ask you and the organisers to consider that. Any other questions, comments?
Madam Mayor, as the mover, I'd just like to say again, I think this is a great outcome. I think this is another festival for our region that demonstrates that we're a region of demand across our state, and it's great that the facilitators have just chosen to come to our region.
Okay. I might also check, councillor Bartley, you're on Teams, just to make sure you don't have any comments or questions.
No, Madam Mayor, I'm right, I'll be voting against it, no.
Thank you, councillor Bartley. Do you want to speak against the motion?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, again, our emergency services is Christmas time. This has come at beginning of December, basically, end of November, beginning of December. How are they going to roster on extra staff, be it ambulance, police, fire, to basically damage the risk factor? Normally they know that we have a New Year's Eve rodeo. They actually have extra police on for that. They will have to second police from somewhere else, but bearing in mind, most of them with their families and having a break like we all like to. So I believe the lateness of this application is why I'm speaking against it. If it had come to council 3 months ago, I'm sure the QPS and all other emergency service would have been able to make some arrangements or put arrangements in place with a lot more ease than what they're going to have to do now.
Nicole, is it taking that on board and not to change what councillor Bartley has just said, but the emergency response plan, which is done in consultation with emergency services, does that actually cover off on that issue that emergency services are happy that they're able to work with the plan?
Yeah, through Mayor Melissa, the organisers have already been in touch with some of the emergency organisers, particularly Queensland Police Service and Queensland Ambulance Service, I believe. Andrew might be able to confirm that if he's online, but I know prior to the last consideration of this, they'd definitely already been in touch with some of those emergency services and consulted with them. Yeah.
Yeah, I spoke to the event coordinator about the lack of a contact detail for Queensland Fire, and they assured me that they would be making contact and getting a contact detail there. With the Rapeseed Letters Festival through Queensland Fire, they also then liaise with the Rural Fire Brigade out at that facility, so they were consulted before Rapeseed Letters was undertaken, and I'm assuming the same will happen in this case as well.
And with reference to that, the safety and first aid with the condition number 19 says that first aid facilities and first aid trained personnel are to be on the site at all times during the event. So that part of it covered at least.
Yes, and that's through the festival organisers themselves.
Councillor Richters, as the mover, are you happy with the slight amendment suggested by the CEO to include in the resolution a delegation to the CEO to finalise the conditions
Yes, Madam Mayor.
of the permit? Marion, do you have the wording that you need for that?
Yes, good afternoon, Mayor. No, that will be fine. I'll be able to word that up.
Thank you. Thank you. And the seconder is happy with that amended motion? Okay. Is there anything else before?
Madam Mayor, as the mover, I'd like to have the right of reply. I would just like to point out for everyone's point of view that there has been an event safe application submitted in regards to this event, and Queensland Police have approved it. So I'm sure that the Queensland Police would not have approved the application, they didn't have the resources to look after the event. And like I said before, the event is potentially going to bring a great boost to our economy, and I think this is well received for our community.
Okay. Anyone else before we move to a vote? Okay. All of those in favour? That's everyone except Councillor Bartley. Councillor Bartley, are you still?
I call a division on that, Madam Mayor, my vote recorded against it.
Yes. Yep, and Councillor Bartley against. So the motion is carried. That brings an end to our meeting. I'd like to close the meeting at 3:45 p.m. All in favour?